I believe every relationship begins with a question. And at Bank of the Ozarks, we love finding the answer. So when I tell my customers I can do something, I do it, and I get it done quickly. Bank of the Ozarks is one of the top-ranked banks in the country, but we still make decisions locally, face-to-face. You have a friend here. Bank of the Ozarks.
And welcome back. The inaugural activities have ended. Time to govern and legislate. Joining me to talk politics is Political Animals Club President and Talk Business and Politics contributor Rex Nelson, KATV's Elicia Dover, and Talk Business and Politics contributor and banker extraordinaire at First Security Bank, Frank Scott, and Highway Commissioner. You got too many titles, man.
Stay up long.
He's a busy man.
Don't go to sleep.
Never sleep, never sleep.
Never sleep.
All right, so we had this past week, Asa Hutchinson gives his first speech formally as governor of the state of Arkansas. I heard general praise for it. Rex, you've been in a governor's office before when someone's given one of those speeches. Kind of how did you react to what he had to say?
Not a lot of specifics, which I think is just about right for Inauguration Day. You come out with those broad themes, you make everybody feel good. This was a much different state of the state because it was really an inaugural address than, say, his state of the state will be in 2 years at the start of that next session. He held off on specifics. I know we're going to talk more about the health care speech that's coming up later this week, but very broad, very general, but very well done. And he kept it to about 9 minutes when it was in the 30s outside, which was smart.
Yeah, that was much appreciated. Well, after everything was kind of over, I was speaking actually with one of his advisors. They were particularly happy that one line picked up on social media, which was, "We realize our differences are smaller than we thought and our hearts are larger than we imagined." The public picked up on that one. That was one they were hoping would be well received, and obviously it was.
Yeah, Frank, what was legislative reaction from any of you folks you talked to?
I think one of the main things that a lot of my legislative friends have communicated to me is this is going to be a new day. It's a new era. There's going to be a lot of change, and let's go ahead and embrace it. No time to, if you're not on board with the new change, then you kind of need to find some common ground because things are going to go ahead. So that's really the kind of format they're coming with.
I'll tell you something else too that struck me, and these are style points here, is he did not really have a prepared speech to the legislature. Right. It was literally an outline, no teleprompter, and he sat there and really delivered, I thought, very articulately, you know, again, in loftier terms and some broad language, but, you know, never stumbled, never tripped up on anything. I thought just presentation-wise, it was very, very clean.
That's a good point because he follows in a line of great orders, of course, and we had a lot of people say, well, he's not going to be a Mike Beebe, he's not going to be a Mike Huckabee, he's not going to be a Bill Clinton or Adele Bumpers when it comes to giving an address, but I thought both the one in the House chambers and the one out on the steps were very well delivered.
I'll even add to that, I was pleasantly surprised towards the end of December. He actually spoke at St. Mark Baptist Church, and I really didn't realize the oratory skills that he does have, and I think with this type of message that he gave with the inaugural, it wasn't really heavy on the policy. It was just more of a vision statement is what I received from it.
Yeah, it wasn't heavy on the politics either. I mean, he did laud the Republican victory a little bit, celebrate that a little bit, but he did say everyone in this room is going to be a part of our vision moving forward.
Yeah, it was bipartisan. Let's talk about what we learned on Friday afternoon, Elicia, and that is that we knew ahead of time. He said he was going to give a speech on Thursday, January 22nd, about his major vision for health care reform in Arkansas. We found out where it's going to be on Friday afternoon.
That's right. It's going to be at UAMS, which I think is a big clue to all of us, his vision moving forward for what we can expect and predict for this
You don't
speech.
think he's going to go to UAMS and pull the plug on the private option?
That would be the wrong location to be. One of the things I think that may happen, understanding we saw in the newspaper today that he made a visit to Washington, D.C. to be with the new secretary, having been in a previous role with Governor Beebe and having gone on those type of trips. I really believe what we may see from Governor Hutchinson is a few different things. One, it's going to be his commitment to health care and what it means to the overall economy. Number two, he's clearly going to seek some more flexibility with it. I don't know how much flexibility he's going to be able to receive. It looks like Governor Beebe was able to get a lot more, but I think when you have this new phase of the Medicaid private option, we're going to see some things go with workforce training and things of that nature.
Yeah, I have said all along that what you do is that you keep the heart of the private option, but you tinker enough around the edges and make enough changes around the edges for at least those who opposed it the last time around to go home and declare victory and say, we forced change in this thing.
But I'm curious as to how you do that politically, because there were so many people who campaigned on pulling the plug on the private option. And it's not just the label of the private option, it is the fact that the money tied to the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is coming to the state and funding this program. How do you keep the private option, keep that funding stream, and still give someone some political cover? I don't see how you do it.
I don't think there's any political cover. At the end of the day, you just have to be sane enough to understand it is Obamacare. However, it's Obamacare with Arkansas's imprint on it. And once you understand that, either the people are going to vote for you or they're not. But at the end of the day, it's the Affordable Care Act. They're going there to Washington, D.C. to figure out how they can make the Affordable Care Act fit Arkansas.
Yeah, and the problem, obviously, for the governor is it appears that they're going to come out of the gate very quickly and do the $100 million tax cut. Now, if you were to do away with the private option on top of that, then you're talking massive cuts in order to balance the budget. And then that's when you've got every county judge up there saying, my jail's full, I can't get them to the prisons. That's when you've got
they're
DHS.
already saying, by the way.
That's when you've got DHS recipients up there saying, why are you cutting us? I've worked in the governor's office when people in wheelchairs chain themselves to the door. It is not fun at all.
And they chant too. So what do you think legislative reaction is once they get this message, Elicia?
Well, I think they have to put out their balanced budget first, and he said he's going to do that early next week. So I think that that's something they're all going to take into consideration. But other than that, I do think it's going to be a tough row to hoe. And I do think that also on this Thursday speech, you know, maybe our honeymoon phase with the governor is over, and we kind of start getting down to business and hearing whether he's specific or not. I think that's the point where we're going to actually get down to business.
I think that's a great point, in that this Thursday may be the first time, or maybe when the budget comes out, if it comes out earlier, that may be the first time we hear some criticism, some harsh criticism of Governor Hutchinson, which he has not encountered much of so far.
And I think therein lies where we're going to see Governor Hutchinson have his governing moment. When he really lays out this speech, because at the end of the day, it's always rule number one, follow the money, and you have to look and see what's going to happen with the budget, tax cuts, and health care, and everything's connected with one another.
Do you think this healthcare speech on Thursday, do you think he drills down into some specifics, or do you think he still keeps it somewhat broad?
I think he has to drill down now. I mean, he was broad on Inauguration Day, and as I said at the outset, that was fitting. That's how he should have been on Inauguration Day. Now people are expecting specifics more than a week into the session. I think he has to be specific this time.
I think so too. I think he was broad throughout the whole campaign. So I think now is the time we really need to see what the governor thinks on this.
Yeah, and from that first press conference the day after he was elected, he said, you can ask me all day, every day until late January when I'm ready. I'm going to study the issue. And I think study time may be over.
Time is now.
It's test time now, yeah. Studying's over. It's time for some exams.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to watch all that play out. That's going to clearly be the big news of the week next week. All right. Let's talk about session predictions here. I asked you all to come to the table with a good prediction in hand. I'm not going to let you off the hook with a layup, Rex. So who wants to go first? Session prediction.
I'll go first. Mine is a bit predictable with one of the hats that I wear, but I really believe there's been a lot of talk. Highway funding will be addressed. Now, what does the definition of address actually mean? Whether it's in the session and you throw out a few different bills, and how that works in the balance of higher ed funding and highway funding as well. Or it could be a special session. You never know, but it will be addressed, and the whole point of it is, what's the definition of addressed?
Mm-hmm. All right, my prediction, I actually will get to see if it comes true very soon. February 2nd is the Salary Commission's deadline to raise salaries above or at 15%. I think they're going to meet that deadline, and I think they're going to raise one or more salaries above 15%.
All right.
And my prediction, Roby, I'm feeling optimistic maybe because of the beautiful weather we've had this weekend, but I predict the session will be at least 2 weeks shorter than it was 2 years ago, that things are going to come together early, and we'll be through this year before the Arkansas Derby is run in mid-April. I wore one of my Arkansas Derby ties, in fact.
That was a rim
back
shot.
up that.
That was prediction. See, my prediction was going to be that it'll go more than the 85 days that they want it to go. I do think your prediction's right, and I think that we'll see. I don't think highway funding gets addressed in this session, but I've noticed that Asa Hutchinson's been very careful. He said we're not going to deal with it in the regular session. He made sure that word regular is in there. I think there may be a special session on highway funding sometime within the first year of Hutchinson's administration. You'd be all right with that, wouldn't you?
Amen to that.
All right, Frank Scott, Elicia Dover, Rex Nelson, thank y'all all for being here. Appreciate you.